Nothing to do.
So
I wish I wish I had started that recording earlier. That's a hilarious anecdote.
I still think the quarter system's the best, but you get FOMO because everybody else is at college already.
I know, and I can't even remember what I did. Well, I guess by the time I made a bunch of friends at Northwestern, I was busy just hanging with them in September.
So I'm gonna get started. It's 3:15 now. Hopefully Katie will be joining us. If not, we have more than enough to continue forward right now. Welcome to I think our fifth installment of our HW Alumni at series. We've done Princeton, MIT, Caltech, and Stanford. Number 5 on our list will be Northwestern. We have Claire Connor. Katie Mumford just got in. Hi, Katie. And it's going to be moderated by HW Principal, HW Pillar, who's showcasing her Northwestern stuff right now. Kate Benton.
This was a present from a Harvard Wesley dad who's a professor at Northwestern.
There we go, right? So the ties are deep. All of these HW Alumni at series, along with any other Zoom event, is located on will be recorded. It's in the resources section of the platform. So if you missed this call, and that's for those who are obviously listening to this as a recording and not with us live now, you can check it out there. We'll continue next week with 2 more, and we'll go weekly until about early November. We'll cover 25 schools this fall. With that being said, it's time for me to shut up. I've already talked too much. So I'm going to turn it over to, like I said, HW Beacon, Kate Benton, who'll be moderating this panel with Claire Connor and Katie. And all I've asked is that they give us, a minute, 90 seconds to kind of sort of introduce themselves.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Quasi. Hey, everybody who's got their camera off and you're muted, I can see. Could you give me an emoji of some sort? Are you 11th and 12th graders or just 12th graders?
We got some 10th graders in here too, Kate.
Oh, we got some 10th graders too. Okay, but you're all okay. Parents. Nice. I see in the chat. You're all HW. They're all current HW students.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
We may have some freshmen looking to transfer.
Good. I see. Thanks for the chat, you guys. That's great. It just helps to know that who we're addressing. So Claire and Katie, nice to see you guys. The first thing we want to do is just quickly talk about what your relationship is to Harvard Westlake. What's your background? Why you chose to participate in the panel, etc. So Katie Mumford, will you go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I was the Harvard Westlake class of 2020. So I got my degree from Cardboard Rick Commons. I was a new freshman. I was part of the new class, but I absolutely loved Harvard Westlake. I was involved in the Playwrights Festival as a writer, the improv groups, cross country, Vex, robotics. I don't know if you guys still do that, but that became my sport. I pretty much did everything that I could.
You can get athletic credit for that now, Katie.
I know. I'm excited to hear that. Yeah, so if you can't tell, I was pretty much involved with every single thing that I could find the time to do, which definitely is foreshadowing why I chose Northwestern.
Awesome.
My story is pretty similar to Katie's. I was involved with tons of things at Northwestern. At Harvard Westlake before coming to Northwestern. I wrote and edited for the Chronicle. I did sports broadcasts with HWTV. I was involved in computer science and computer science club. I tried to go to as many arts performances as possible and really just, soak up everything that my amazing, talented friends were doing. And I was on the debate team. Outside of that, outside of Harvard Westlake, I worked for city council campaigns and did a choro program. So I think it's really not a coincidence that people who try to make the most of the community that they're in and be involved in as much as possible chose Northwestern, because it's a place that allows you to do so many things at once. We like to say "and" is in our DNA. You're not defined by one thing or by one idea. You're a part of so many facets of the community. And I that's one of the things that's so wonderful about Harvard Westlake, and I want more HW kids to know that Northwestern is such a perfect place for that.
Awesome. And then to you guys that are 11th and 10th graders, I wasn't your dean when you were at the middle school, but I'm a longtime dean, was a longtime dean at the middle school for over 19 years, and I was the head dean at the middle school. So I was dean for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. So the current 12th graders, it was my last year being a 9th grade dean. And so then Miss Ilg went on to sort of take over the 9th grade, the third 9th grade dean spot, and now Dr. Carroll is doing that this year. Before that, I ran the drama program for my first 8 years at Harvard Westlake. So I was a theater major at Northwestern. So that's why Mr. France asked me to moderate this. So I went to Northwestern and then came out to LA, made my living as an actor. Then I met some people at Harvard Westlake, the late great Ted Walsh, who used to run the drama program. And he invited me to come see a show. I met the then head of Harvard Westlake. His name was Tom Hudnut. He's the equivalent of who Rick Commons is now. And then a month later, he called me up to see if I'd be interested in interviewing for the drama position at the middle school. I didn't even know there was a drama position at the middle school. But I knew I always wanted to teach. So I thought, well, this is opportunity knocking really loud. So I knew there'd always be another audition, but there wouldn't be another chance to teach at Harvard Westlake. So that's it. So now I'm starting my 30th year. 2 summers ago, in the summer of July 22, I left the middle school campus and being a dean, and I joined the advancement team. So now my office is at the upper school. I'm up in what's called the advancement house, which is up in the hill above the security kiosk, above the gym, above Seaver. And I'm up here all by myself. But what I'm doing is I'm raising moolah for the schoolah. So I'm raising funds for Harvard Westlake for financial aid, faculty and staff support, student wellness and balance, and Harvard Westlake Riverboat. So that's what I'm doing now. And it's fun. It's different. It's a shift, but I'm enjoying it a lot. Okay, so that's a little background on who all of we are. So can I start out by just running some questions here? Katie and Claire, how many colleges did you guys apply to overall? Let's go Katie first.
So I ended up doing early decision for Northwestern. I think that I submitted maybe 5 early action safety applications to, I think, like UMich, UChicago, like Wisco, and was preparing to apply to more, but since I made the early decision pretty early, I was really focusing on that, and then like the next best for early action, and then I thankfully got in for early decision, so I promptly withdrew all my other applications.
And did you, so you knew you wanted a Northwestern, was it recommended by your college counselor, or is it something you'd already heard about and you'd already checked it out like sophomore or junior year?
For Northwestern, I had an older brother who went to Northwestern, so it was on my radar from him. I had a very kind of big roundabout way of deciding that Northwestern was the best fit for me. I started being super averse to it just because I didn't want to hear everyone say, oh, she got in because her brother went there. And by the time that it came around to really thinking about what school I should really go for, I've always explained to people that when I would make a list of everything that I wanted from a school, like big sports team, near a big city, but still had a really beautiful traditional college campus, not in California for me, that was a big thing. Excellent academics, but also known to have kind of a social life, Greek life scene, extracurriculars. When I started adding every single thing up, the only school that checked every single box was Northwestern. So I was like, okay, just got to go for where the best fit is. And it definitely was.
Great, thanks. Claire, can you give me the same sort of history? Like how many schools did you apply to and how did Northwestern get on your radar?
Absolutely. So I was applying more recently. I'm a rising sophomore at Northwestern now. So I was, some of you might know my younger siblings, Eden and Michael Connor. Eden is now a senior at Harvard Westlake. So she's in the application process now. I didn't have an older sibling or a parent or really anyone I knew who went to Northwestern. I was interested in journalism, so it was one of the 15 schools that I applied to. It wasn't my early decision choice. I'm convinced that if I knew more about it when I was applying for early decision, I absolutely would have gone to Northwestern. I completely agree with everything Katie said about, that kind of decision making. I do sports broadcast. I wanted a place that had that strong Big Ten sports culture. I wanted excellent academics. I'm in Greek life at Northwestern. I wanted a place that I thought would be a lot of fun. I take amazing classes with amazing professors. I'm involved in like 10 different extracurriculars. I have a healthy social life. I go to the gym 4 times a week and I get 8 hours of sleep a night. I'm just not convinced you can do that anywhere else in the world. And so that, when I was deciding where to go to college, I interviewed like 8 or 10 students from all of the places that I got into to talk to them about what they liked, what they didn't like. And everyone had something negative to say except for the kids at Northwestern who all just completely raved about it. And for me, it was just like, if it wasn't enough of a sign that I should be in Medill because I was like interviewing all these people, once I talked to them, I knew that that was the right place for me.
Tell everybody what Medill is.
Oh, yes. Medill is Northwestern's journalism school. Northwestern, we have an engineering school, theater school, journalism school. Those are not limiting. So I'm a journalism major, but I'm also double majoring in political science and minoring in data science. So you can do a lot of different things. But I am in our journalism school, which is excellent. I think it's the best in the world. And even if you aren't super involved in journalism on campus, I think you should take a look because the skills that you get are really amazing.
And coincidentally, the faculty supervisor to the Chronicle before Miss Bladen took over head of communications was Kathy Newmeyer, who's a graduate of the School of Medill and Northwestern as well.
And I believe also at some point, the faculty Chronicle advisor was Jenny Hauntz, who went to Northwestern, was a professor at Northwestern, taught at the Cherubs program, which I went to over the summer. And I had no idea, but she was a senior strategist at the PR agency that I worked for over the summer. So I
Cool.
the Northwestern connection there, and she trusted me with, work that they normally would give to associates because of that Medill training. And so I think that when you're looking at, I don't necessarily want to work in PR, I'm pre-law, but when you look at the professional opportunities that you're going to get, I think Northwestern is one of the most, well-connected and tightly knit alumni networks out there.
Really, really cool. Katie, do you have a major yet? And did you know what you wanted to major in when you got there?
So I thought that I knew what I wanted to major when I got there, as will most of you, and sometimes it'll switch up. I went in being super interested in computer science and technology. And then one of the first courses I happened to take was called cognitive modeling, and I got introduced to cognitive science, the major, which is like neuroscience, but more interdisciplinary and less just focused on like how the brain works from a medical standpoint. So I ended up I graduated with my degree in cognitive science as my major, and then did a minor in entrepreneurship, which is through the engineering school, which I absolutely loved. And then also got a certificate in human computer interaction from the engineering school. So it's always a mouthful, but it really prepared me well for a kind of career half in biotech, but also just within tech development as a whole. So I really loved it.
That's so cool. So you graduated this past June.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I guess I did not clarify.
No, I mean, obviously, you graduated from Harvard Westlake in 2020, but
Yes,
maybe you took a gap year,
I
who
was a
knows?
Northwestern class of 2024.
Okay, so are you in grad school? Are you working? Are you in LA? Where are you?
So I'm currently calling in from Manhattan, and I got a job at the investment bank UBS as a product manager. So I'm within an investment bank, but doing internal tech development, which is super cool. And what was the other question? Sorry.
No, that was it. That was cool. I was just curious if you were going to grad
it's
school or.
cool. So actually I will say I obviously just started working, but I did the Northwestern, it's called Future Leaders program, where so For everyone listening, by the way, Northwestern's business school, the Kellogg School of Business, has been ranked 3rd in the country. So they have one of the best business schools in the country right now. And I applied for their deferred admission program and got accepted. So I actually have 2 to 5 years of work experience that I can do before attending Kellogg to get my MBA.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
But
really cool.
that, and for all Northwestern undergrads, you can
That's-
apply without taking the GMAT, which is especially compelling for some people.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind if you're already interested in business school.
Yeah, and then for those of you guys that don't know, Kellogg is as in the cereal Kellogg. It's that Kellogg from Battle Creek, Michigan, and that family and that foundation. And they also created, they had the campus of Cal Poly Pomona, which is out east a little bit. That used to be the winter resort for Kellogg, and he raised Arabian horses on that campus, 12 of them at least, because the stables are still there. They've turned into offices, and had a big fancy rose garden and a big fancy orange grove. And he built that up for his wife so she'd want to come to California in the wintertime and get out of Michigan where it was cold. But anyhow, so Kellogg invested in a lot of educational institutions. Okay, so let me go on to some other questions. How diverse is your school, major, and campus overall? Is Northwestern pretty diverse? Yes. And it sounds like you guys have already answered that your major is super diverse because you can study one thing and go study another thing, and they don't force you to be pigeonholed, which is great. What did you do this summers after your sophomore and junior year? Did you have any internships, or did you play video games, or what did you guys do? Be honest.
Is this sophomore and junior year of high school or of college?
Yes,
Because-
sophomore and junior year of high school. In other words, did you think in terms of what you wanted to do to sort of build a college resume?
For sure. Well, so first, I do want to comment on the diversity question because I think it's an important one, particularly for Northwestern. So you'll notice, guys, as you're applying to schools, I know that a lot of things are going to change in the coming years because the college admissions landscape is changing a lot. But
And affirmative action has gone away?
yes, Northwestern has, very similar diversity statistics, racial diversity, ethnic, religious, economic to most other elite universities in America. We have, one kind of small difference, which is that we're only about 10% legacy students, which I know is on the lower end of what a lot of other top 10 schools are. But really that's, those differences are pretty negligible. I think what really sets us apart is that because we're so interdisciplinary, there is so much diversity, both of background and of thought, within every single major and thing that you will do at Northwestern. Like you can go to schools where, there are students who demographically are coming from all sorts of places and you might never interact with them because of what you are a part of. But I think Northwestern does an excellent job of making sure that everyone gets to know each other and have conversations with each other. And that's like incredibly valuable. To answer the question that you actually asked about internships. I think it was a combination of things. So I did a campaign internship. I worked for Tracy Park's city council campaign. I'm in District 11, and I was doing mostly writing and communications work for them. I did a lot of debate camps and coaching debate and things like that over the summer because I was really involved in all of that. I did summer programs like Cherubs at Northwestern, which was a journalism program. And I think, all of these things you have in the back of your head, like, oh, they are going to help me get into college. But I also did things that I really loved. And they helped me find passions for things like journalism that I don't know that I would have otherwise discovered. So I would say don't limit yourself by what you think is going to be just the best thing to help you to get into college, because what's the thing you're actually interested in might be what gets you on a path that it helps a college see how compelling you are as a candidate.
I think that's a really, really, really good advice, Claire. And also, my understanding from just talking with upper school deans, et cetera, who all come out of college admissions, is college admissions can smell a rat a mile away if you're just loading up your resume just because you think it's going to look good for college and it's nothing you're really that interested in. It would be best to figure out what it is that really interests you and go pursue activities in those areas so that you can talk about them passionately too. Katie, what stuff did you do over the summertime?
Oh my gosh, I had to just really think about that. I would say kind of similar answer to Claire. I think I ended up going down the route of doing more little like college summer sleepaway camps. I was super interested in Columbia and Barnard, so I did a week-long program there, which really helped me figure out that I liked New York City a little more than the school. So I would really highly recommend if anyone is able to like try to take advantage. Some of these programs are just, 1 week sleepaway. They have all kinds of different courses you can take just to get a feel for some schools you like. And then if you start worrying about, well, should I get this internship here or there? If you can find an internship that one will be genuinely exciting and interesting to you, absolutely go for it. But I honestly spent a lot more of my common application. The meat of it ended up just being different extracurriculars I had where I then really dug into those. Like I did choir outside of Harvard Westlake, and I made sure to commit a lot of time to that. And a part of my application that was strong was doing different choir, like singing events. And some of the like nonprofit clubs I was in at Harvard Westlake, instead of trying to focus on just having that there and then doing some big internship, which really is not going to usually be that big when you're that young. Actually digging in during the school year and saying, okay, I could say on one line that I participated in a club. Can I find an opportunity to maybe lead a fundraiser? And then that becomes much stronger than just tacking on some internship or summer experience that you try to find just because you think it's going to make your application more compelling.
That's great. That's really helpful. Thanks. Next question, guys. If you're comfortable, do you mind sharing what you wrote about for your college essays? And did you write more than one? Did you like cater an essay to one school and another one to another? Claire?
So yeah, this is, I guess, just the Common App essay instead of like what I wrote for Northwestern, like my Why Northwestern. My Common App essay was actually kind of crazy. And I think it goes to show that you can truly write about anything. I was like super involved in the pickling club at Harvard Westlake. It was like
Pickling as in cucumbers?
yeah, cucumbers, we did kumquats, we did peppers, we did grapes. You
Cool.
can pickle a grape. Like I didn't know any of this stuff. It actually started off years ago as the pickling and bonsai club because neither club, this is like kind of urban legend, but apparently neither club could get enough people to sign up. And so they merged and they said, we're going to have pickling and we're going to have bonsai and we'll be a club. And it was a hit. And the bonsai didn't survive because I feel like that's such a specialized skill set. But pickling anyone can do, so that survived. So anyhow, I wrote about pickling and kind of used it as a metaphor for the way that I was thinking about world events. When I was a senior at Harvard Westlake, the Russia's invasion of Ukraine had just begun. And it was one of the first, major like land invasions that took place when I was, paying attention to the world around me and to geopolitics and whatnot. And so they're, especially seeing a lot of the civilian casualties, understanding the history behind the war. This was a lot to grapple with for, young minds. And so I kind of decided to write about the way that I was thinking about that and processing all of that as I was making a pickle and use the process of pickling, which is like being really careful about the way that you sort and combine things and, let them simmer, let them ferment, and you end up with something that maybe is different from what you started with, but that is really beautiful and amazing in its own way. So yeah, crazy essay. I don't know how much it mattered, but I loved writing it. And so I think you should write about something that is totally as unique to you as possible and that is about something that you love.
Cool. Katie.
Yeah, I feel so like my personal essay, it both was and wasn't targeted to Northwestern because it was targeted in the sense that it catered to Northwestern's brand really well, but I would have kept it the same for all my applications. So mine was about how when I was much younger, I had a cheese journal. I'd go to the store and pick out cheese with my mom, and then I would like write a review, and I would write about how I would pair the cheeses with different things. And over time, I got more and more adventurous and quirky with the pairings. And like some pairings would go surprisingly well, like brie cheese and Fruit Loops. I still remember that line, like that example. And then others were really bad. Like I got yelled at by my mom for trying to mix cheese with raw egg. And then I used that to transition into how little did I know that my constant interest in finding unlikely overlaps would translate to my older like adult life, and how I'm always looking for unexpected intersections of things, and whether that's in academics or extracurriculars. And I wrote about how like my extracurriculars, like doing choir, actually prepared me really well for cross country and vice versa. So because Northwestern is super interdisciplinary, and they're very obsessed with people who are creative and always open to finding overlap between different departments, different fields, different courses, this essay was super strong for Northwestern.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm actually making a parallel between both of your essays, just in terms of, I think that's the name of your memoir, Katie, Unexpected Overlaps. But and also what that's like in terms of just listening to you guys talk about the big picture of what Northwestern's like with diversity also. It just sounds like it's, here's another metaphor, a big woven basket, and that's pretty cool. Nice. So I'm going to just interject by telling you that everyone who's listening, what Claire's preparation and experience in Katie's is much more what you want to do. I'll tell you that when I was growing up, my parents had no idea where I was applying to college. I went to a boarding school because that's what we did in my generation. In the 70s, I grew up in the East Coast, and it's like going to college when you're 15. I was independent. I loved it. And I was not sent away because I was a bad child. I chose to go. And so I went to boarding school outside of Boston in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Anyhow, I looked up at the clock and I went, holy smokes, my interview for Northwestern had started 5 minutes earlier, and I was in the middle of a ceramics class. And I was in the middle of a greasy hair contest with my best friend. We wanted to see how long we could go without shampooing. So I had a bandana over my hair, I was in ripped jeans, I had clay all over myself, and I tore down the hall and I walked into the room. And luckily, the person there who was interviewing was an amazing person. Shep Shanley is his name, and I think he only recently retired as in his late 80s. And we hit it off and talked. So in my case, the interview, I think, is really what sealed the deal for me. And I hadn't really done a lot of homework about colleges. I knew Northwestern had a great theater program, so that's why I was interested in it. But when everybody's letters came, and back in the day we got letters, this is pre-email. If you got a skinny letter, that was bad news. If you got a thick letter, that was good news, because it was not only your acceptance, but it was also a bunch of forms you had to fill out to sign your enrollment agreement. So everybody's getting letters, but I didn't get one from Northwestern. I'd heard from some other colleges I applied to. So I called my mom and I said, I'm not getting any news from Northwestern. She said, do they know you want to go? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, you might want to think about that. So I picked up the phone and I called the head of admissions and I said, can I come out for the weekend? I love Northwestern. It's my first choice. I really want to see it in person. And a half an hour later, I got a phone call from the admissions office telling me I'd been accepted to Northwestern. So moral of the story, if you want to go, make sure they know it. It could make the difference between you and somebody else on that admissions table. But times have really changed. I think it's a lot harder to get into college now. But but I definitely learned a lot of life lessons from that experience, just in how I conducted myself with future interviews and job outlooks. Okay, so let's see. How do you feel in terms of, Katie, do you feel like Northwestern prepared you well for what you're doing now and in the future? And Claire, do you feel like it is in the process of preparing you well? Katie, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think the one place where Northwestern like absolutely met/exceeded my expectations was just with the coursework. I will say Harvard Westlake prepared me extraordinarily well for it as well. Like no matter what college you all will be going to, you're going to have a lot of lectures about imposter syndrome. And I felt like that didn't end up being as relevant. Like Harvard Westlake prepares you really, really well as for Northwestern in my experience. Like it was great. It almost felt like an elevated continuation of Harvard Westlake, where like I felt like I was surrounded by really capable students who were very success oriented, and I had all professors that were extremely excellent, top, some of them, a lot of them top in their field. I lost track of the amount of times where I would have a course where there'd be assigned reading and it would be a textbook or research paper by the professor. So really, yeah, I cannot emphasize enough how happy I've been in terms of career preparation on the academic side. The other thing I will really say I was absolutely just kind of shocked by was really how great the alumni network is, especially because you have Kellogg being one of the top business schools that you can tap into. When you're in high school, you don't, of all the things, at least for me, of all the things that I was thinking about with college selection, I wasn't really thinking about like alumni network. Like I always heard people talk about the alumni network, and I just like, I knew that was a thing, but just know once you're actually searching for internships, searching for jobs, being able to pick any company that you're interested in, type that company into like LinkedIn and then filter by school. The feeling of seeing like so many alumni pop up that you can reach out to is so nice and so helpful. I was really interested in tech, and Google, Meta, like OpenAI, even like you name it, there has been several Northwestern alums that I've been able to reach out to and get really important career advice, mentorship, referrals. It is truly top notch. Like I had a real moment of realization of like, okay, Northwestern was definitely the right call, because at the end of the day, you know, reputation, this, ranking, that, like Northwestern Alumni Network is just as strong as any other top school you're going to get there, in my opinion, in my experience, at least.
That's great to hear, Katie. Claire, before I go to you, I just want to just interject. It was about the late 90s when Northwestern made a conscious decision to become a top-notch college. It already was a top tier, but competitive on the Ivy level. And the then president, so it was sort of a psychological shift, if you will, to start accepting more competitive students, and it's never turned back. So at that point, I think it was, you know, easier to get in. So when I applied, I think it was easier for me to get into Northwestern than it would be today, definitely. So I think it says something to Katie and Claire about your accomplishments also that you got in. And I remember Rick Commons is now our president. Our then president was a man named Tom Hudnett, and he called the head of admissions and said, "What's going on? You're not taking any of our Harvard Westlake kids." And then they said, "Well, your Harvard Westlake kids aren't taking us. We aren't your safety anymore." So they gave us a little bit of a hand slap. And there was about 2 years where some kids weren't getting in. So only when kids could prove it was their first choice did Northwestern actually start paying attention to the kids who are applying. So just for like a little interesting piece of history. And now Northwestern is right up there in the top. Claire, just in terms of how you feel like you're being prepared.
I mean, yeah, like a brief comment on that is that there still is kind of this notion at Harvard Westlake that unless you ED you're a legacy, you won't get into Northwestern. I have
Mm,
no parents or siblings at Northwestern. I did not ED to Northwestern. I got into Northwestern because I was a great fit for the school and I demonstrated interest. And so, like, I just want to make sure that people are not cutting themselves off from opportunities to go to really amazing places because you've heard from so and so that like something is true about a certain school. It's not true. We're a top 10 school. We're very competitive, but that doesn't mean, especially given your Harvard Westlake education, that doesn't mean that you need to just cut yourself off from the idea that you can go to Northwestern because you can. Um, I
that's right. And they're not scolding Harvard Westlake anymore, by the way.
Yeah, oh, they're not. No, but
No.
yeah, no, it's when I was applying, honestly, there was like this rumor that it was stupid. Like, they were like, why are you applying regular? It's stupid to apply regular to Northwestern. It was not. I got into Northwestern. I know there are other people who got into Northwestern. So I would be really careful to avoid a lot of the meshigas, as my grandma would say, around all of that. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, your actual question.
Yeah, the actual question is, how
Preparedness.
well do you feel like Annie's preparing you? Yeah.
Yes, preparedness. So I'm pre-law. If you're pre-law, pre-med, so many of my friends have specific ideas of what they want to do with their career. Northwestern is completely there for you every step of the way of that. If you don't really know what it is that you want to do in life, they're also there for you. We have a career office that says, hey, just have a meeting with us. Like, you don't need to know what you want to do, but we'll help you start to get thinking about these things. So this is not a place where you have to feel pressured to be on a certain track because so many people aren't. That prep is amazing. I think our alumni network, we're a top tier school. I think somehow our alumni network even outperforms that. I really believe it's one of the best in the country. And I think the other thing that is important to keep in mind as you're applying to these places is that there's kind of this idea that the educational or career outcomes are going to be drastically different for you based on where you go to college. And I think that in the current climate, especially of a lot of these elite universities, that's just not true. The educational difference fundamentally between Harvard, Northwestern, USC, Georgetown, like, it's just going to be so minimal. It's about the place that's a good fit for you. The educational difference, I will say, between a college kid who spends all of their free time on TikTok in their room, like not socializing, not going out, and reading books reading books written by people who disagree with them, having conversations with their friends about like what they're interested in, getting involved in startups, getting involved in plays. That is actually going to be a huge educational difference because you're not applying yourself, you're not growing your brain, and you're not building connections. So go to a college, like the one thing that will make a difference, and you can do this at any school that, kids at Harvard Westlake are getting into. Go to a college that's a good fit for you, where you'll be able to do those things. Like that, the kids who I see getting the best internships and job opportunities are the kids who kept that in mind.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, because the pressure is to apply places just because of the prestige, not necessarily because it's going to be a great fit for you. And I certainly know my share of people that went to top colleges and squandered their opportunity while they were there. They could have just stayed home and saved their parents a lot of money. But all right, so we're at the point now where I want to open up to everybody that's listening to see if you have any specific questions or general questions. And you can unmute and ask or put them in the chat or whatever you're comfortable with. So is there anything that you'd like to know about that we haven't covered or you want to dig a little deeper and learn about? Audrey, yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I was going to ask, besides Claire, you talked a lot about the media publication, in like Northwestern. Does Northwestern also have like a really strong like video and photo program? Or like, do you know a lot about that?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm more involved in print and broadcast media within journalism. So this is just within Medill and kind of Medill-ish extracurriculars, which anyone can be a part of, even if you're not in the journalism school. We have Northwestern News Network, which also has a sports department. They do amazing coverage. We have investigative labs and several other groups that do award-winning documentaries. outside of journalism, we have RTVF, the School of Radio, Television, and Film. They have their own video productions. Photography, one of my best friends in Medill is just an incredible photographer. If you're interested, I can totally connect you with him and send you some of his work. And like the athletic department, he works for the Daily. He's a sports editor of the Daily now, but the athletic department for a while hired him because they were like, we just want you to take really amazing sports photography for us. So there's so much that you can do in both of those fields. I really think anything creative, anything storytelling, like Northwestern is just absolutely unbeatable in those areas because you have strong, Medill, you have RTVF, you have a great school of comms, arts, all of it goes together. It's all interdisciplinary.
Unbelievably strong, yeah. Yeah. And Audrey, if you feel like researching, if you look up famous grads from Northwestern, it's a pretty impressive list. Whether it's in the arts or the sciences or business, it's amazing. But there's a lot of in front of the camera, if you will, on stage as well as behind the scenes and behind the camera work, just in terms of video and storytelling. Amazing writing programs there too. Anybody else have any other questions? Oh, thanks. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. I'll turn my camera on. Hi, I'm Eileen. I'm currently at school, so it might be a little loud.
That's okay.
But I was wondering like how student life is at Northwestern with like mental health or like dorm life or just how students feel about their time at Northwestern. Because I know mental health, especially in our recent years at Harvard Westlake, has been more important than ever. So I want to take that into consideration, like when applying, and just like keeping a good balance between like mental well-being, physical well-being, and just like socializing.
A great question. Hey, Katie, do you mind starting with that? Because you came out of COVID and graduated from high school with no high school experience. So you probably had a lot of kids that were reeling from that.
Yeah, myself included, COVID was not fun. I would say that honestly, mental health was treated really, really well by the administration. They have a thing called CAPS, it's like counseling and like mental health programs, where you can go, any student can get an appointment. I found that every time I wanted one, I could get one within a few days, or be on the phone with like a therapist, like within the day, like depending, like if you're having any student that's having an emergency, completely free of charge, like you will be able to talk to someone, like the school will provide someone to talk to in person or virtually. They have a whole team of staff that will help you. If you're someone with out of state insurance, like myself, they will help you navigate finding a provider for mental health services within Illinois that works with your insurance, which I thought was really fantastic. They also provide some ongoing in-person or virtual therapy free of charge, which I was really impressed by. So yeah, I would say like in terms of the school, like logistical school side, do they have support systems for mental health? Absolutely. And they're always trying to grow them. And then in terms of kind of work-life balance, in terms of school and extracurriculars, sure you'll hear this a lot with college, you're going to be more on your own. People aren't going to hold your hand as much. It is going to be more up to you on how well you take care of yourself. But I think that if you're intentional about your coursework, if you're taking a really difficult class, do not take 3 other super difficult classes and try to front load another class. It's academics are going to be manageable, and you always have department advisors to help you manage those courses. You will have a dean that has about 30 other kids all 4 years, so similar to Harvard Westlake, where you can at any point go into them. I had one quarter was really bad for me, and I just went in and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pass these courses, what's going on, help me. And they were able to work with me and my professors, and I ended up beyond passing all the courses, like they are very, very, very accommodating. And I will say that all the professors were also, in my experience, always very accommodating, as long as you would communicate with them even in advance, like especially in advance. So hopefully that really covers it.
And Harvard Westlake Short teaches us how to do that, right? How to advocate and how to make office hours with teachers.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say it prepared me really well. Like
Yeah.
I had up until my senior year, some of my peers would come and ask me to help write their email for asking their professor for help. So that 100% works in college. I would say always, always, always continue it. Like there's not, you can't go overboard with asking for help and communicating where you're at.
Thank you.
I totally agree with everything that Katie said about that. I also want to add, Northwestern, along with a number of other colleges you'll apply to, have, excellent safety nets for you, whether that's something like CAPS and counseling or working with professors. But I would also say, and like this was something honestly that contrasted with Harvard Westlake for me, that like people's mental health in general is like very good at Northwestern. Most of the people who I know there are really happy. They might have stressful weeks, or even, a stressful month or quarter here and there, but like generally they're really happy, just like well adjusted. Things are going well for them. I think that comes from a few places. It's a school that truly emphasizes work-life balance, like beyond saying that they do. Pretty much everyone, like, you don't have to be in Greek life, you can be in like a sports club, and they have like, social things going on all the time. Like people are really connected to the community around them socially. They get a lot of good exercise. Like there's kind of a bit of a gym culture, at least among a bunch of my friends, and that's really important. And they have time because of the quarter system to like get sleep and do class and do all of the things that they love and like still take time for themselves. And so I think when you're looking at colleges, like I'd like to think that those things are unique of Northwestern. They're probably not. There are probably other places where you can get all of that. But I think you should look not just at who can accommodate me when I'm having a mental health issue, but who can set me up to not have a mental health issue. And that's absolutely Northwestern.
Great to hear. You know, what else is interesting, which I didn't know about college till I got there, was when it was time to sign up for courses, I just signed up for the 8 o'clock class because I was used to my first class always being at 8 a.m. You don't have to do that. You can take that same course at 2 o'clock. So if I know that I'm not a morning person and I'm going to listen and be much better starting like between 10 and 2, that's when I want to take my academic classes. So maybe I can sleep in and study in the morning or go work out in the morning or whatever. So you can curate your schedule the way you want it. And that's really great. Really helps.
If anyone isn't familiar with like Northwestern is a quarter system school, so that means that everything will be fast. I am someone who loves that. So each course, instead of 2 semesters, so you pick your courses for the first half of the school year, do those, then you pick courses for the second half. That's what most schools are like. You got 3 quarters at Northwestern, so they're about 8 weeks total. So that does mean that the work is going to come faster and everything's going to go by faster. I will say it was I definitely consider myself like a kind of work hard, play hard person. And I would say the school can also definitely be like that. So the reason I wanted to just kind of add this in to bookend the mental health discussion is do your research on whether a quarter school system would be good for you. Because no one knows your own brain and your own kind of physical state better than yourself. I personally know that if I have too much time to do things, or classes feel like they're dragging out too much, that's going to be worse for me and my mental health. But I know some people who chose semester school, and whenever they would hear my schedule of kind of 2-week exam intervals, more or less, not that bad, but when some of my semester school friends would hear of my quarter school system schedule, they would be like, I could never do that. You couldn't pay me to do that. Versus for me, it was the opposite. So just wanted to really emphasize that. I'm sure by the end of your college kind of like choosing process, you're going to be sick of hearing quarter school versus semester, but really, really, really think about that and do not discount that impact on your mental health.
Good advice. Good question, Eileen. Thank you.
There
We got
aren't
time.
any- Do we
Time
have?
for one more, or should we wrap up now, Quasi?
It's up to you all. If there are more questions, I'm bored. It's your time. I try to respect your time, Kate, and our panelists. So if there are more questions, we can have at it.
Well, I carved out till 4:15, so does anybody have any more questions? If not, we can wrap early, but Paul, Joanne, is it Matin or Mateen?
Team, yeah.
Mateen?
Yeah,
You're good?
looks like we might be okay. Do you ladies
Well,
want to?
I was going to say, if you guys come up with any questions after the fact, and you want me to get you in touch with Claire or Katie, contact Mr. France or me, and we can connect you. Or Katie put her email into the chat, which is awesome.
I think everybody's on the platform. I think everybody's on LinkedIn also.
Okay, awesome,
Yeah.
great, 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 great. And there's Claire, nice.
Mhm.
And
If-
Claire, I think I saw Eden today in the cafeteria, and she's so grown up, I didn't recognize her. And now as I'm thinking back, I think it was her. So tell her, I realized it was her after the fact when we were talking.
I think so. She's out sick, so I think she might have
Oh, it
been
wasn't her today then.
brought up
Okay, good.
because it was a different person.
Okay, it was a different person.
Yes.
Good. No, I won't feel so bad.
No. You're they're like, I feel like it's really hard to like I remember going back to Harvard Westlake to like pick Eden up, and I saw people and I was like, I think I know who you are, but I'm not totally sure because there are just so many people. But yeah, if any of you know Eden, like also, and you want to get in touch with me about Northwestern stuff, or just like generally if you want to chat with someone about college apps who like did it recently, got through it, like you can always reach out like through Eden or just my email, whatever's good for you. But yeah, I did it pretty recently. I remember what it was like. I know it's like easy for me to say to calm down because I'm already into college and I love college, but like I really just don't know anyone who was in my class who like I know a few people who are transferring. I think most people are incredibly happy at the colleges that they end up in. And if they aren't, like within another year, they are. Because Harvard Westlake just sets you up so well to be an advocate for yourself and to make, really great life choices in that regard. So like you're just gonna be totally fine.
And try to tune out the chatter of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think like I wasted so much time like listening to all of that when I could have been like actually doing good stuff for my future. So, talk about mental health, like take time for yourself, instead of like making a spreadsheet of everyone's earlies. I don't know.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
And it gets around. It gets around that you're doing that and people won't be happy with you. Just like it's a
People will
bad
also
idea.
lie. People will lie. Oh my gosh, this just brought it back. Yeah, don't be that person, and don't be the yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Well, I don't understand how that could possibly help you except for make you more anxious.
Yeah, if you want to be more anxious and you want to make other people anxious.
And if you want to seem like, creepy stalker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, who cares where everybody else is applying? Let them do their thing and you do your thing. That's the best advice. Yeah.
That's really
And
good
here's
advice.
one last thing to remind you about. When you go to Northwestern, you want to invest in a really good parka because it gets cold.
If you
But
have a really good parka, you'll be fine.
you will.
We're a beach school. We do have a few months of good weather. Fall is gorgeous. I love spring. You're gone for
Like-
December. Like I'm
Like
from
gorgeous
LA.
lakefront.
Yeah, no, being by the water, underrated. Some of my best friends are from LA and Miami, and like we all thought we were just gonna die. And actually during rush week, it was a polar vortex and it was like negative 30 degrees with wind. And we were there in our like little dresses with sweatpants and coats over it, but just like truly if you layer, you're fine. So I wouldn't worry about it.
It's a really pretty campus. And it's really easy just to take the L into downtown. The L is the elevated track, short for elevated. And so you take the metro system, the subway, if you will, into the city, and you can explore Chicago, which is so cool. Amazing art institute. Some of the best art I've ever seen in my life. And just really cool history in that city and really great music too. All right, Katie, thank you. And thank you, Claire. And thank you, Mr. France. And thank you, everybody tuning in to listen.
And thank
And do
you,
your
Kate,
homework.
for moderating. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
Thank
my
you,
pleasure. It was
Claire.
fun.
Thank you,
Thank
Katie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Also, like,
Thank you.
if anyone, I know this is getting recorded, and if anyone's listening to the recording and doesn't have access to my email, which is like in the little chat, you can just look me up. I'm Claire Connor. Just search Claire Connor Northwestern, and like my LinkedIn or something will come up. But like literally, if all you can find is a Twitter DM, like, and you want to talk about Northwestern or the college process or any of that, like, please, please, please reach out. Because I had so many people who were such a resource to me when I was applying to college, and so I'm
That's
so
really
happy.
nice.
So
Super generous. Thank you,
But-
Claire.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Say hi to
Okay,
your family for me. Okay.
well,
Thanks,
everybody
everybody.
enjoy their Wednesday afternoon. This recording will be up probably midnight tonight. Okay, take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.